Around the world, you've got so many beautiful languages. The French accent, the Italian charm, the German aggression.
We are German, and as such, we are always self-conscious about getting angry in public. Our language is quite the troll.
I can do an evil old housefrau. Ess dein Schnitzel, sonst kriegst du keinen Nachtisch.
Deutschland ist ein Land ut Stodluten.
That is very true, that basically you don't have to know German, but you can do a German language accent by just being aggressive, shouting loudly. It's quite easy to do that sort of accent without actually making any sense.
Ja, lass die Hunde hock! Nimm einen dicken Schritt! Glaubst du, dass die Deutsche keinen Humor hat, ha?
German sounds harsh and aggressive.
Yeah.
Guten Tag! Ich will ein klein Boten haben, bitte schön! Das schwarze Boten mit der Käse und das Hinken, bitte schön!
It's a disgusting language. Nobody should ever speak it. It sounds like typewriters eating tinfoil being kicked down the stairs. And somebody is talking to you in German, they're saying, and you think, what is happening to you from behind? How can we make it stop?
Someone, somewhere, is always making fun of our language. But why does German sound so aggressive to the rest of the world?
So this is done by Fern, who clearly are German. So at least they can take the mick out of themselves. That's the main thing here. You should always be able to take the mick out of yourselves. And if you, that makes it sort of acceptable that they're doing it. What are the guesses? We should probably guess. Why does German sound so aggressive? Is there a lot of D's? Duh. A lot of duh sounds and yeah, a lot of, that's what I'm going to say. There's a lot of D sounds, and D can be quite quite harsh, I guess.
The German language is part of the Germanic branch of the Indo-Germanic language family. Besides German, Dutch and English are also Germanic languages.
Yeah,
but while English sounds gentle to many people, German is often described as spat, barked, ugly, dry, cold, harsh, yapping, and military. German is rarely perceived as beautiful.
Never.
There are several reasons for this.
1. Linguistic characteristics.
German has a lot of gutturals and glottal stops. They can make the language sound harsh. Let's start with guttural sounds. German has the special ach sound, which sounds very throaty. It can be heard in the German words fauchen, which means to hiss, or krach, which means noise. These words are often difficult for non-German speakers to pronounce because these sounds don't exist in widespread languages like English.
See, that is the case. Where I'm learning Polish, there are sounds that you don't ever make in English, and you've got to try and change the shape of your mouth into a way that it never does. So these sort of languages we don't hear from everyday speak, and so because it's a completely different sound, maybe that adds to it.
Next, glottal stops. Germans pronounce vowels very strongly, especially when they appear at the beginning of a word.
Yeah.
This causes the vocal cords to open suddenly and all the air that has built up to escape at once. Take the word apple. The German word is Apfel. You can hear it quite well throughout this example. Ich esse oft Äpfel und anderes Obst. In many other languages, the words of a sentence are spoken in a flow. In German, sometimes there's a mini pause before each individual word. Here you can hear the difference. Everything is alright. Alles ist in Ordnung. Of course, I'm overdoing it a bit here, but you get the idea. These breaks can make German sound a bit barked. Some sounds exist in almost all languages, such as M and B. Others are quite unique and only appear in a few languages. In English, there's the diagraph th, for example in thanks. Germans, including me, often struggle to pronounce that. Italian, which is often considered to be a beautiful, melodious language, uses mainly vowels and only a few exotic sounds. German, on the other hand, has many rare, complex sounds, which might come off as strange. We use so-called umlaute, such as ä, ö, and ü.
Very similar. I'm not comparing the languages as in sounding similar, but that is a thing. Each language has certain letters or double letters that make certain sounds. So, for example, yes, a lot of foreign people can't say the th. In Polish, o, l. There are those sounds that just I wouldn't have had a clue about beforehand. But you see quite a few in German, don't you? And I wouldn't even know how to pronounce them. If I was just looking at them, I wouldn't have a clue how to pronounce them.
Again, often hard to pronounce for non-German speakers. And there's the SZ. It looks like this and is essential for our all-time favorite word, Scheiße. The SZ is used to indicate the hard S sound. Plus, many German words just have a lot of consonants. For example, Strumpf, or a classic selbstverständlich, which means of course. German is complicated, and as humans we often shy away from complexity. But isn't the real challenge to transform complexity into something enjoyable and intriguing? That's kind of the ethos of this channel.
2. Infinite words.
This is a not made up, absolutely real German word with 79 letters. Rinderkennzeichnungs-Fleischetikettierungs-Überwachungsaufgabenübertragungsgesetz. We will not bother you with what it means here. What we're trying to tell you is this. German has a high number of compound words.
That almost seems very similar to Welsh. There are places and words in Welsh that are really, really long and ridiculous to try and pronounce. And you always get like place names with traffic reporters on the radio that try and pronounce those Welsh names. And some get it right and some do not. That reminds me of that a little bit.
These can be really cool because the word often literally describes what it means. For example, you have a house and a Tier, an animal, and together it is a Haustier, a pet. Though as a people, we seem to have made it our goal to put together as many words as possible. This has led to many long and insanely complex creations. Mark Twain already made fun of this word and many others in 1880 in his famous essay, The Awful German Language. He writes, "These things are not words, they are alphabetical processions, and the inventor of them ought to have been killed." And because the words are weird, a lot of non-German speakers find them very entertaining. They have something weirdly over-precise and orderly about them. Combined with their guttural and glottal stop consonant-loaded delivery, it can give them a military touch. Ironically, we have a word for this. Konsonantenschlacht. Every German-speaking actor or model has to do the German word quiz on an American talk show at least once.
Bezirksschornsteinfegermeister. Schmetterlingsbeinschlag.
Backpfeifengesicht.
Albeit this last one being an absolute banger of a word, meaning a face that's just inviting a good slap like Jimmy Fallon's, these shows only strengthen the image of the difficult and weird German language. And this leads us to...
I think that's true. Talking about when... That's a few examples there on American TV when German actors have gone on and they've been asked... Obviously, the host will plan what they do in their talk, and clearly they are being asked to say German words that are quite long and crazy. So that only highlights the fact people then see that and think, okay, well, German is basically ridiculous words, it's too long, and so that reinforces everyone's thoughts already, and not necessarily in a good way, probably.
3. Prejudices.
What do people think of when they think of Germany?
And they're saying to you something like, we have been better, but we're very vibrant in the theatre and arts and so on. All the time you listen to this, you're thinking, Hitler.
During the two world wars, the German naturally became the enemy in many countries. German-American relations changed drastically. In the US, the teaching of German was banned. German programs were no longer allowed to be played on the radio. Authorities called for a boycott of German goods. Streets and even Sauerkraut were renamed. Hitler is possibly history's most terrifying figure. Germany's history, once so gruesome, it is rightly so echoed, processed, and analyzed countless times in all forms of media, so it may never be forgotten. According to many linguists, the perception of the German language is in part the result of these historical and socio-cultural contexts.
That is spot on, isn't it? Because actually what old Dylan Moran was saying there, you can be talking about Germany, but actually I think you would always connect Germany with Hitler, the wars, and actually when people are doing a German accent, who are they imitating? The man that was just on the screen, isn't it? Hitler. People imitate Hitler. They don't imitate a random German, they imitate Hitler. And so that has stuck, right? Because you see all the speeches, the propaganda speeches and things, the speeches on balconies, and the way that he spoke, it was aggressive, it was harsh, and bear in mind he was Austrian anyway, but that's now the association with the German language, for example. It definitely is.
German might have an image problem. Linguists would point out that you shouldn't judge a language based on its sound. What sounds strange to one person is beautiful to another. And if you label a language as ugly, you might miss out on fascinating insights into other worlds of thought and sound. So lastly, let us introduce you to some beautiful German words you can pretentiously incorporate into your Sprachgebrauch. Fernweh describes the opposite of homesickness, the longing for distant places. Weltschmerz is a feeling of knowing that the world will always fail to meet your expectations because of the prevalence of pain existing throughout it. And lastly, Treppenwitz, a joke or thought that you think of too late, just as you walked out the door, already on the stairs. Like, I'm sure there's a nice way to finish the video here, but I guess it just won't come to me until we hit publish.
Fascinating. And I think, yes, that's gone into different aspects of the language, that hasn't it? It's gone into the whole idea that the sounds, the letters used, the sounds that are unfamiliar to foreigners. But then there is the whole link to Hitler, and that's what people see, and that's what people remember, and that's what people joke about, and you see it on the comedians there. That is what they did. Fascinating video, really, really is, especially from an outsider, a foreigner who speaks English and barely speaks another language, but trying to speak Polish. Interesting. Give me your thoughts. Do you think German is a nice sounding language? Let me know in the comments, but thank you so much for joining me. Please do like and subscribe, and I will catch you next time.